Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakat, Kwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible in 100% truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel. Shalom to you. So today, coming back at you quickly, just a quick short video in the name of prophecy, and it's regarding World War III and the events that are going on surrounding that and the lead up to it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the link for you in the description box for this video here. It's about an hour and 3 minutes long, but it's very well worth watching. And it's actually a news program, and it goes into certain information regarding China, Russia, and Ukraine. You know, if you're living in the West, for example, the UK or America or Europe, you watch the media, you watch the news, and they paint a particular narrative when they present the news to you. And the reason for this is to, in terms of propaganda and to get you to think a certain way. So when the powers that be want to make drastic changes in certain areas, and sometimes that includes war, they pretty much, through the propaganda that they feed to the people, they tend to have their backing. And then what you have, on the other side of that is a whole bunch of sheep called the population, which, don't really know what's going on, but, feed off the messages that they're given and they believe a lie. But when you watch, for example, news program in the East, you've got Russia, China, India, Pakistan. You have obviously all around China. There's many other countries, and even in the Middle East. And when you watch the news in those particular areas, nowadays we're able to do that via the internet and things like this platform here. You realize that there's actually a different side to the same story that you're given in the West. And we're living in a time, the book of Daniel mentions the statue, and we're living in the very end time where it's part iron, part clay. I believe that's the feet, and the iron and clay do not mix. So that statue represented many kingdoms that were to come, and we're in that last one now. And the fact that on the statue, it was the feet, which represents this kingdom now, was made of part iron and part clay, represents the fact that it doesn't really stick and bond together as a worldwide community. And don't forget, you have Israel, the nation of Israel, and then you have the other nations. The other nations are the one that have us in captivity at the minute, and it's the Edomites that are top of the chain at the minute. So they tried to create this new world order, which ultimately is adverse to the laws and commandments of the Most High. That's the job of the Edomites. They've been gifted spiritually to fulfill that job role, and that's what they're doing on this earth at the minute. And it's our job now, obviously, as we're waking up, to cut through that and show you the truth, show the true understanding of what's going on. Don't forget, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai has given us a gift to be able to watch this movie scene, which is World War III and the MOTB, this prophecy, play out on Earth. And we're like special guests in that, we've been allowed in the back door, and now we can now look at the world in a very special way, in the true way, according to the Most High, and understand that this is His movie. So we're watching these events play out according to prophecy. Now, I've gone into the subject of World War III many times, and on this particular news channel, there's a lot of information coming out. I've actually had to write it down because there's so much information that they go on to. When you watch this particular video, you're going to come across the first 2 minutes, and the first 2 minutes, you're going to find these people speaking in the Punjabi language, and you're not going to understand. This is the end of one particular news program, the first 2 minutes. So if you ignore the first 2 minutes, and then if you get to about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, a little bit more than that, and then the show that I want you to watch starts. So skip the first 2 minutes, and then you'll see this news program start, and then it lasts for about an hour. And they go into the facts, the details between Russia, China, and America. If you didn't know, recently there's been a visit. Putin has visited China in the last couple of days, so they've had a meeting there. And now, since that meeting, China have come out and tried to put a lot of blame on the West, i.e. America, in terms of the Ukraine war. So we can see that alliance between China and Russia building, something that the scriptures mention. And that's why it's good to watch this particular news program. That's one thing they go into. They go into the fact that Putin is now claiming that some of the weapons being used by Ukraine, which are supplied by America and UK and these other EU nations, he's now claiming that some of these weapons have a small part of them which is a nuclear part. So what he's trying to say now is that the West are now, taking that Ukraine war to a level where nuclear weapon is being used. It's not a full-on nuclear weapon, but I'm not sure. I can't remember how they described it. You can see it in the program, but he describes a weapon which has a contaminant of nuclear weaponry within it. So what Putin is now saying is the fact that you're using that, you're now taking it to a nuclear level. He's obviously gone over to China and he's met up with Jinping, I believe that's his name, and obviously Jinping's come out. He's pretty much trying to be the mediator in this Ukraine-Russia war, and they're saying to America, it's pretty much your fault. So we can see a clear line starting to be drawn between the East and the West. And don't forget, these scriptures mention an alliance in the East of nations, mainly with Russia, and then joining on with these other nations, and having an alliance of China and Russia is something that we've gone into before, and now we're starting to see fruition of that, and hard results. So that's one thing they go into. They also, on this particular news program, is the fact that China are apparently blocking GPS signals for air flights, air travel in that particular area where they are. And now that's been reported by Australia. They've made reports that the Chinese government are sending out signals to block messages traveling through the air so that the pilots can't pick up messages to each other. That's one particular part of this news program that they go into, I thought I'd mention. And towards the end, they do go into 3D food printing, which is something that you've probably seen before. We know we're living under the devil. The spiritual power of the devil is given to the Edomites, and we're living under their rule. And now we're just starting to see a lot of this evidence come out, and then the fact that they're trying to replace food, with so-called 3D printed food, whatever that is. We definitely know we're living in the time of the devil. So that's something to look into there. Just looking at my list of what I've written down here. Yeah, they also talk about a row between India and UK. So again, it goes back to that line starting to be drawn quite clearly between the East and the West, just in time for World War III. And, again, this is all pushing the Edomites, and especially Babylon the Great, America, to think, they can see World War III is on the cards. So this is going to make them think that they have a short time and try to get a rush on with this MOTB, the implementation of the CBDC, Revelation 13:16, the MOTB. So another thing that they mention on this particular show is talking about the supply of microchips. Now, China are trying to buy supplies to make microchips, or trying to buy microchips. I can't remember which one it is, from the Netherlands, Holland, it's a European nation. And however, the Netherlands are curbing what China are allowed to buy off them, and that is under the influence of America's guidance. So that's something they go into. When I'm talking about these particular topics. When you watch this particular show, like I say, this is not your average, westernized news program, and they give you that light little story at the end where they found somebody's dog that got lost. You watch this in the West, right? You watch the news, they've got this pattern. They give you this big story, then a slightly smaller story, then a slightly smaller story, then they give you the sport, and then they give you some light entertainment, stupid little story at the end. Oh, this guy's just reached 101 years old, and we've got him on the news for 2 minutes at the end, and then they give you the weather. So they give you this dumbed down program, sort of structured news, which is just to feed you BS. But when you go to watching this particular show that I'm showing you here, they go into detail. They show you how things are working and what the real truth are. And they're not really afraid to show you if somebody, a set of people are truthful or not. They don't really mind. They just explain it as it is. One thing they go into, they do discuss on this show the IMF and the voting system that they have to make, the IMF have certain rules that they follow. And then there's a body of people that vote to make that how it is. And that is influenced by America. So again, when you watch this show, she's going to go into great detail. Well, not great detail, but she's going to show you exactly how it is that America are manipulating the system. This all goes back to the scriptures. And they also go into the fact that the IMF have lent money to Ukraine, whereas they didn't really want to. They made Sri Lanka jump through hoops to borrow money off them in order for them to be dug out of their financial situation. And she then goes on to explain why is it that the IMF are willing to help Ukraine and we're really hesitant to help Sri Lanka. This is all understanding how the world is working and how politics work, and how constantly you have America's influence in amongst all that when these other nations are trying to do things with each other. And another thing mentioned on here is the financial crisis, the global financial crisis. The EU have announced that financial crisis is definitely going to hit the Eurozone very soon. So like I say, skip the first 2 minutes, and after that, as you go, like I say, they're just going to pick you through story by story.
Over 2/3 of postcodes in Great Britain are already playing the People's Postcode Lottery.
Story by story.
And therefore, our message has been.
So we have obviously, what it is, I don't want to play the video. Normally I'm quite happy to play videos, and I'm quite happy to put a little bit of music at the end of the video. And for 2 years, the only thing that YouTube have said to me is, oh, that's copyright, but so you can't monetize the video. And I've said, yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And we know that they shadow ban the channel. We know that you can't say certain things based around the MOTB, or they'll take the video down and they'll strike your channel. So when I put up a video a couple of weeks ago talking about being 6% away from the third woe, I didn't say anything on that video that's incriminating for them to actually be able to block or do something to the video, so they couldn't strike it. But what they did do the following day, they pretty much went through all my old videos and they started banning certain ones in certain countries for certain reasons. And I couldn't be bothered to go through all the reasons. I mean, it could have been because of copyright. And so, they're onto it. So obviously that's why at the minute I'm just trying to hold it down. Otherwise I would have played this. It would have been easier just to play it and stop it and start it and discuss what's happening. But if you've got the time, I urge you to watch it. It's about an hour long, and they're going to take you through story by story. In this one, for example, here on the screen, you've got the situation with the Chinese government blocking air signals, around Australia. But there's a lot going on, and it starts off with, look, they even go to Uganda. The Ugandese are kicking off about the alphabet people, rightly so. And then, yeah, like I say, the 3D printed food, courtesy of the devil. But the main story at the top, which was the visit of Putin, went to China, and China are now starting to say, this whole thing with Ukraine is the West's fault. And so now we're starting to see a clear line being drawn between East and West. There's a real problem coming for Babylon the Great America. So before I go, I will leave you with a few scriptures, just briefly. This was Ezekiel chapter 38. This talks about the whole situation with Russia and Ukraine. And we know that, once upon a time, there was a place called the Soviet Union. And obviously once that was broken up, we're talking, 30 years ago, they were broken up and they become individual nations, one of them being Russia and one of them being Ukraine. So at some point, what you've got to understand, I went into this a couple of years ago. There was a thing called the START Treaty, which was a nuclear arms treaty between America and Russia. And that stated that, we will both curb our nuclear weapons building and supply to certain limits in order to avoid a nuclear war. That was an agreement between Russia and America. Now, the whole time Putin has been in power, I've seen statements he's come out and said, look, we've been trying to talk to America about this nuclear treaty for years, but they ignore it. They dismiss it. They don't really want to talk about it. Meanwhile, they keep building nuclear weapons. So I keep building nuclear weapons. And that's what Russia have done. They've dug themselves out of a hole in the last 20 years, built up the money, the resources. They've done what they've had to do. And then they have the money to start building arms in the last decade or so. And that nuclear deal, like I say, Putin was aware. He says he said it before. When I deal with Washington, I'm just dealing with puppets. Every government tells me the same thing. I go there, say, why are you building weapons? We've got this treaty, but they dismiss it and they carry on building it. So I'm building mine. And that treaty ran out in 2021, and there was a lot of panic. And then Biden, decided to say, yeah, okay, we'll, because it was all on America. What you're going to do, and that's how Putin's dropping it. And that was in 2021, and then so since then, Biden came out in a panic and said, yep, we're going to extend that treaty for another 5 years. So everybody said, yep, safe, cool. We've now got that nuclear treaty, START treaty between Russia and America, not to have World War, nuclear war again. So everybody's kind of chilling out. And then obviously now you've got Putin. He's done his thing in Ukraine, according to scripture. And, that START treaty, and this was announced, it was a date here, February the 21st, around about that time, a month ago, more or less. Putin suspends participation in the key nuclear arms treaty. We know we're in that time of war, and we know that Putin ain't playing, or Russia. He's invading Ukraine, and he's cancelling nuclear arms treaty with America, and he's linking up with China as well as Iran and other nations to build army on that side, on the east. It's all in preparation for World War III. So when you go to Ezekiel chapter 38, it says prophecy about Gog and the future invasion of Israel, and Ezekiel 38 and 1, and it says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, at the land of Magog, and the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So, this is discussing the mentality of Russia that we're seeing now. We're seeing the fruition of them. They ripped up that START treaty, threw that in the bin. A year ago, they went and invaded Ukraine. Obviously, they feel justified for doing it, and they have their reasons, and they blame the West. Ultimately, it goes back to this particular prophecy here, and I will turn thee back, because they used to be the Soviet Union, and they were disbanded and split into separate nations. But Russia still see that as their land. So, that's why Putin's gone in to take it back, retrieve it. And, don't forget also, NATO have extended their borders all the way from America, all the way over to Ukraine. So that's the last stop. So if Putin had allowed NATO to get a strong foothold in Ukraine, it would have meant that the enemy has brought itself all the way to his front door, and he's not about to let that happen. It says here, and I will turn thee back to that old mentality, that Soviet Union, that warlike mentality. And it says, and put hooks in thy jaws. And when you hooks in jaws are to catch something. For example, a hook in your jaw. If you're going fishing, what you're going to use? You're going to use a hook, and the hook's going to hook the fish and pull it out. And that's what Russia have in their jaws. They have hooks to when they grab onto Ukraine, they're looking to yank that back to themselves and rip it off and have it to themselves. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army and horses and horsemen. That's what you're seeing now. All of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And it says down, when you jump down to verse 15, it says, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou, you, and many people with thee, all other nations, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army. And it does actually mention a lot of these. Yeah, so when you go back up, 38 and 4, I will turn thee back. So when you jump down to verse 5, 38 and 5, it says, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, and the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Okay, so just a quick one if you're new, and you read something like that and it starts to throw you off. All you have to do is type these things into Google. If you see what I've typed in here, Gog, Meshach, Tubal, map. Just keep it simple and hit images, and you can easily find things to show you. So we know, look at the top right. We know Gog, Magog. This is referring to Russia. We know Togarmah is Turkey and Armenia. East Europe is Gomer, and Iran is Persia. So it said all these nations are going to be with thee: Iran and Togarmah, Gomer, Gog and Magog. Then you can look around at different other maps. Which other one? This one I looked at as well. Look, this one says Meshech and Tubal in the center. So again, now you can add that to it. You've got Dedan down the bottom, and Cush and Libya. So these are all, all going to be joining Russia come World War III. And all you have to do is, relate it to who's there today. You look at Persia, who's there today. You have the land of Iran and obviously other nations round about. So if you're new and you're kind of reading through these, really you should be able to read through that and, just pick out these places on a map as you're reading through it and keep going back to the chapter Ezekiel 38, and you'll be able to build that picture in your mind of actually, what it's talking about and what you're seeing. But yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just bringing out scriptures related to the video. I'm going to make this short as I can. Revelation 12 and 12. I mean, when you watch this particular video, there's so many precepts are going to come out in your mind. I'd be here all day if I was trying to pull them all out. And like I say, they do a good job of telling you exactly how it is straight without sugarcoating information and giving it to you in certain ways. And this is Revelation 12:12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you with what? He's going to be coming down with that implementation of that MOTB, that digital system, putting you in a situation where you're forced to buy and sell with it, because without it you won't be able to. They won't even offer you citizenship. And that's going to be the devil coming down onto us. The spiritual demon, the devil, will be latching onto his physical counterpart, the Edomites. It says, having great wrath in time of Jacob's trouble, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. And the way it's developing on this geopolitical scene, and see what's coming out of this meeting between China and Russia. And just like we're sitting here, the banking elites, the rulers in America, whoever they are, they're going to be sitting back and seeing this, and they're going to be realizing, we want to implement this MOTB, and this war is around the corner, so we don't have a short time. So this is going to be coming very soon. MOTB and then World War III. Now again, if you're new, you can type in the word whore. When you're looking at the scriptures, we understand that the whore represents America. So especially in the book of Revelation, it says, and there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me. This is talking to John on the Isle of Patmos. Cyprus, I believe that's Cyprus. And Cyprus, when you go to Cyprus and you get off that plane and you breathe that air, Cyprus is like a desert. So to be in a salt mine working as punishment in that type of heat, in that type of dry, arid, extra arid, dry air, that's some mean punishment, man. And I got off that plane. I went to Cyprus. I got off the plane, and the first thing I thought was, "Where's the air? I can't feel the air. I can't feel it coming into my mouth, my throat, and because it's that thin and dry." And and then to be put to work in a salt mine in that type of weather, that's a harsh punishment. And talked with me, John, on the Isle of Patmos, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. So that's America, surrounded by all that water that it sits upon. And this is Revelation 17:15. And he saith unto me, the water which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. And so again, that represents the variety of people that all travel to America for a so-called better life. America is known as that great melting pot. And you've got, people from all around the world who, specifically go there just for a better life, even though it doesn't necessarily work out like that. When they get there, that whore ultimately swallows them up using the beast system. But this is what it's describing, Revelation 17:16, and the 10 horns, which represents the EU nations, which originally started with 10, but now there are more than that. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast is the system, the worldwide economic system that we live under. The beast system, which will ultimately ask us to take the charagma, the incision in the skin, for the digital system. It says, these shall hate the whore, America, the EU, and which is sitting on that beast system, shall ultimately hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire, using nuclear ICBMs. This is all. And if you're new, like I say, this is how you can kind of put two and two together and work it out for yourself. You've got Revelation 19:2. For true and righteous are his judgments, for he hath judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and have avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. And that's something you're going to see evidence of in this particular news program when I spoke of China struggling to buy silicone chips from the Netherlands. The Netherlands are curbing what China are allowed to have, and that is under the guidance of America. It says here, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and have avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. And this is spiritual fornication. So America has influenced the world on many levels. On a religious level, on a scientific level, and on a social level, and an economic level, and as well as a military level. Because obviously a lot of their old weaponry goes to these other nations, smaller nations, when they build bigger and badder weapons. So America is that whore which did corrupt the earth with her fornication on all types of level, and have avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. Again, if you're new and you looked up the word whore in the book of Revelation, now you can look up the word beast. This is the system, the economic system. It says, these have one mind, all these nations, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast system. So when you hear about Holland doing what America is saying in order to affect China in a bad way, that is them giving one mind unto the beast, that beast system. And ultimately, they will also give their mind to the beast system to say, yeah, we'll take the charagma, the incision in our skin, and we'll offer it to the people. And we'll tell people you can't buy without it. That was Revelation 17 and 16. Again, we went that one already. 17 and 17, God have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, come World War III, to destroy America, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. This is Revelation 19:19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gather together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast, Revelation 19:20, and the beast was taken with him and the false prophet that wrought miracles before him and deceived them that had received the mark of that worldwide economic system, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, which is America, burning with brimstone. So, like I say, for you can tap in the keywords, tap in on the map, and look it up, and then it'll bring things together. But like I say, the main point of this video, I'm going to leave the link for this news program in the description box, and if you've got time, click onto it. It's not going to change your life, but the information that comes out is very useful, is very up to date. Like I say, we're seeing a clear line being drawn in the sand between the East and the West powers on this world. And I mentioned a few months ago that Saudi Arabia will be put in that situation where they're going to have to pick a side, West or East. And ultimately, we've seen results the other day that they picked the East, which is where they're from. And we're in that time. So, a fight's about to break out when everybody's picking sides. There's about to be two opposing forces when everybody's picking sides. When you're at school and you say, let's play a game of football, it's lunchtime, you've got 25 people standing there, 20 people, and what do? You get two captains. You stand there and you stand there, and then one by one, the captains pick someone. I'll have you, until everybody's gone. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now, World War III, waiting for the MOTB, but the devil does know he hath but a short time. So with that, I hope that's edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.